Okay. Because there's like fancy countdowns out there, and I haven't done that yet. I gotta get it from Canva, and I gotta figure it out. But we'll do that for like season 3 Bridgerton. It's fine. Yay! Welcome back to my channel. I'm Melissa. Clearly, I see we have one viewer. Hey, hi, and hi to the people who are watching this in the future. If you're watching this in the future, please let me know your rating of the show out of 1 to 5 stars. I have my beautiful, wonderful guest co-host Sam, who is a good day for a book. Sorry, it's this way on Instagram. Make sure you follow her. And I have lovely Gabby down below me. Do I look above you, or are you on other sides of me on this, or do I look like
You're in the left corner?
Oh, okay, cool.
You're in the left corner for me.
Okay, you are in the right corner for me. So I think we're seeing the same thing. Cool.
Yes, I think so.
All right, I was just always curious about that, and I never asked my guests. So I'm glad I know that. Cool. So as I said, we're going to be discussing Queen Charlotte season 1, which I guess will be the only season because from my understanding, it's a limited series, but I'm guessing if they do amazing numbers, they may do another one. And I know Shonda says she's interested in Violet Bridgerton's story. And I'm just like, I have so many thoughts against that we can get, we can get into, I guess, maybe during our discussion. But yeah, so I watched this the day that it dropped on Thursday. And my intention was not to watch the whole thing in one sitting, but like a psycho, I did. I just kept on going because I was like, it's only 6 episodes. And I started like right after work. So I didn't go to sleep too late. And I was vlogging the show, which is a video that is on my channel that you guys can see. So I just did it in one big sweep. So being that I watched it all in one day, which is the day of release, I am already forgetting some details. So you guys may have to remind me of certain things. Because I don't know, like I consume stuff and then like it leaves my brain. It goes poof. This happens with books, it happens with shows and movies. So yeah, so I wanted to do this as close to release it as possible. Cool. So who wants to start? Who wants to start with their rating? I have to pick somebody like I'm a teacher again. Gabby, go. You're first. Because Gabby actually saw the show way before us.
Yeah, I saw it a month ago, or maybe like 3 weeks before it came out, something like that. Yeah, because I got the screeners. So lucky. But yeah, and I watched it twice over, so I guess I'm an expert. I give it like a 4 out of 5. Because I did really like it. I think there's just some parts of it that I was like a little confused by, and like I think like the romantic tension between the king and the queen was like a little lackluster for me, especially in the middle. But I think ultimately there's like a lot of stuff in here that I really enjoyed. I love Lady Danbury. I love her arc in it too. It was just like so empowering, and like she's just a really good, well-written character, and like one of those like characters that like that, you know, like that a Shondaland show like just always has and always nails. And that's who like Lady Danbury was for me in this show. Yeah, and I really just loved like sort of how things kind of came together. And yeah, and I think it was like it ended up being like a really good finale, and it just felt super fitting for what the show was going for.
Cool. Thank you for that marvelous introduction. I think I just quoted Hocus Pocus. Sam, what is your rating and overall feeling?
I also rate it 4 out of 5. I think it's an easy show to enjoy if you don't compare it to Bridgerton season 1 and 2. I think if you can have it as a standalone show, I think it was incredible. Little things here and there, but I love me some side characters, and I really like Charlotte. I really like George. I am fully into Brimsley and Reynolds. Fully. Just we're going over all of it, so spoilers are okay, right?
Yeah. This is a spoiler review, recap, chat, everything. Yeah.
I very much enjoyed it. I know we'll get into it, but the finale, which I just finished watching 20 minutes before this, devastated. But like not devastated like it was like bad, just my heart. well, we'll get into it, but 4 out of 5, Brimsley and Reynolds are everything to me. And I very much enjoyed it. But I'm so curious why you are against a Violet story.
Oh, I'll get into it.
So curious.
Well, we're supposed to have a fourth guest co-host, but I still wanted to get Cynthia's rating because I'm like about that life. I'm that like ride or die bitch. I'm like, let me hear your rating. She also gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Hopefully she sees this later so that she could put in her thoughts in the comments. I gave the show a 3 out of 5 stars because there's parts of it that I really enjoyed and appreciated, and there's parts that I felt were lackluster to me, and it just didn't give me that 4 or 5 star feeling. And I guess I will continue so then we could talk about everything else. I don't know where to start. So many things happen in this show. Okay, you mentioned Brimsley and what's his name? Reynolds?
I think it's Reynolds.
I realized I really like especially in historicals, I really like when there's a staff that's meddling butlers and whatnot, especially when they're like rooting for their king or queen to like get together. Like
they stand the king and queen.
Is my catnip historical romances. I love that. The more that I read and watch stuff, I'm like, yes, please give me more of this. So I really like those characters. Maybe I missed it because I forget details, but I don't know exactly what happens to Reynolds by the end of during the present Bridgerton timeline, because we saw Brimsley dancing by himself, and I thought we were gonna get my lover died many years ago, but we don't know what happens.
Right, we don't know what happens.
We don't. They don't. I've done my own investigating into this, and it's purposely ambiguous. You know, they don't know what happened to Reynolds. I mean, I think they kind of wanted to leave it up in the air, and maybe they'll bring Reynolds back. Maybe we'll get a snippet of him in season 3 or 4. We might never see him again, and we'll presume he passed away or something happened. But
you know who also doesn't know about what happened to Reynolds? Queen Charlotte.
Yes.
I can't believe she asked Brimsley. She said in the end, she's like, do you have a family or something like that?
She doesn't know anything about this guy the only person who stood behind her, which is one of my biggest questions of this. I don't understand if, again, maybe I missed it and I'm not understanding it. There's gaps in her character arc for me. I feel when she's younger, we see she's feisty, she's a rule breaker, but of course she's raised in this is the 1800s. She still does as she is expected. She's betrothed. She is, she's wifed up and she has to breed all these children. But overall, she seems like a cool, kind person. It's I don't understand how that became such a mean person in the main timeline. I kind of try to reconcile it. She's been dealt a really hard hand. When she married this guy, nobody told her that he had this mental illness, and then she already fell in love with him and didn't want to leave him. But it's okay, but you know that you chose this, because he was no, let's just live apart. It's fine because I can't, I'm not good for you. But she seemed happy in the moment when she was choosing him over and over again. So I don't understand how she kind of grew older to be this sort of kind of apathetic, just a mean person. And she doesn't really care about anybody else. She doesn't even know Brimsley's even married. She's really insensitive with her kids. So I don't understand that arc for me. Kind of missed it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel I don't think she's apathetic. I think she just sort of has this hard exterior. And I think that's just how she feels the need to present herself. That's how I always interpreted it. I think it could just, she is older. She's been through years. She had 15 kids, for God's sake. That's gonna wear you down, especially, So I feel I think she's just a little older. I think, she isn't she is a little self-centered, but she was always a little bit self-centered even when she was younger. I think. I feel I think the writing kind of leans into it more with the older version because it's more for comedic effect. It's funny for her to be kind of like dismissive and like have her like really snarky turns of phrase. So I think that's probably like where you might be getting hung up. And like I get it because like I could get hung up on that too. But I also kind of, I guess in a way, like I sort of think she has like I mean, I feel like in the moment with like at the very end where her and George, like you see that kindness in her and like her vulnerability. So I
Yeah, at
feel
the
like
very
it's still
end.
there. Like, you can feel it. Well, like even in Bridgerton though, they show it. Like when the Queen barged in like in like the middle of season 2, like and she had like that little heart to heart with Kate's sister, I forgot her name. That was like, I mean, she kind of showed these little like softer sides to her before. So I think it's just like maybe you just have to like she only shows it to certain people or in certain situations.
She definitely has like vulnerable moments, which I do like seeing like that mask slip off. But it's just like with like the people that are like closest to her, like that, like the Brimsley dude. Like if I were him, I would be so like my feelings would be hurt. Like this bitch has never asked me how my day was, how my wife or husband, like do I have kids? Like she's never asked him. And I don't know. I don't know if I agree that she was self-centered as a young person. I feel like she was selfless. Like she didn't really think about her happiness at the end of the day. She was like, well, I'm here now. I have to make the best of it. I gotta make these kids. This whole country, Germany, is counting on me.
So I feel like I think that yes, she was selfless when she was younger, but I think she also, like Gabby said, I feel like obviously we don't see all of that middle. We see her when she becomes queen, and then we see her in the Bridgerton series. And I feel like she's obviously like, well, like Brimsley, when she asked Brimsley, like, I was a good mother, right? Like he flat out told her, you were so focused on the king, like everybody was. So I think that throughout the years, I'm assuming 15 fucking kids. Like, I mean, you can only give 15 different people so much attention, to be fair. But also, I feel like there were so many kids, and she is George's lifeline. Like George not gets better because of her, because he obviously always had that mental illness, and he continues to have it. But like he's like her crutch almost. I hate saying that, but just for a lack of a better example, like he leans on her, and that had to have been a lot. I feel like a lot of women as they get older get a bad rep because, although it's not to say that it's okay, because she obviously never asked Brimsley, like you said, how his day was. That's not okay. Not condoning that at all. That's a bit of an issue. But I do think to a certain extent, I think women as they get older get a bad rep because they're tired, they're a little bitter. And it's like, well, they've been raising all these kids. They're helping lead or lead England or whatever. Like she obviously helped George make certain decisions. She encouraged him. Like it was a lot of work on her. And that's got to be a lot of like wear and tear, like on your soul and your mental state as well. So I'm sure at some point she just got fucking exhausted and was like, Nanny, shower the kids because I got to get under the bed with this guy. And, she's tired, which also love under the bed scene. I cried the last like 10 minutes when they're under the bed and they see each other as the younger selves, bald. However, her dress is so big. How the fuck did she fit under the bed?
I was thinking that too. I'm like, that bed must be really highly raised to like fit all that material and
like,
the
she didn't even have to like scrunch anything. She just slid right in there. I'm sorry. That's the most unrealistic part about this show.
Oh my God. I didn't even think of that.
That's the first thing I thought of. I was like, she ain't gonna fit under there. She just slides in.
She does fit. I did think that last scene was beautifully done. I didn't cry like I know many people did, but I was still like, oh, going back and forth between old and young, and she stuck by his side for decades.
She did.
She did.
And like, she also, really quick, I know that you had said that like he had even told her like, don't be with me, like we can live separately or whatever. But like that really isn't an option because she wanted to have a husband and she couldn't leave because it would be treason. So, like, really, she didn't have another option. So, even if she didn't love him, which she obviously does, and I love that, but even if she didn't love him, I could see her still making that same choice because, like, then she was just going to live in the house all by herself, like, with these kids. Like, that was going to make her miserable too. So, I feel like choosing to stay with George, yes, she did it because she loved him, but, like, there was no other choice, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, he definitely made it seem like something, like it was possible, especially with that first episode. Let's go back because we're going backwards, which I love. But I will talk about how much I love their meet cute. I was eating it up, the whole wall, trying to help her escape, and he is being so flirty.
Mm-hmm.
He was so charming. He was
Mm-hmm.
so cute. I was very much into it. I was like, girl, you could do worse. You could do worse than this cute, charming man. Come on. Get into it. Be excited for this wedding night. Okay. So I feel like he did a great job of like making her feel more like calm and like, like letting her choose to come back with him or not. And then when they get married and they have to go back to the palace, I forgot the name, Buckingham House for the wedding night. Yeah, like she is so confused, and then I was so confused.
Same.
I was like, why? Why are you doing this? You're hurting my feelings. I was so confused by this. And then obviously when the season goes on, you realize the reason why he was trying to keep her away from him. But I have to say, I was not ready for this show to have the tone that it was. This was a tragic love story, and I didn't know that it would be this sad. Because obviously I watched the other seasons of Bridgerton, and I know that King George, as he is older, is suffering from mental illness. But I just didn't I didn't know that they would depict that illness when he was so young. Like I already thought like, oh, this happened to him like when he was already older because he was getting so
I thought that too.
That threw me off. I was like, what? This is not a romantic show. This is sad.
It's so romantic. So romantic.
It's like bittersweet, Sam. It's like the romance is sweet because like it was a hard journey for them and like they stuck it out, but like it was a sad story.
Right.
I wasn't ready.
It was very sad, and it is sad, but it's just so beautiful because they chose each other.
Oh man, it was tough.
I have to say, I was frustrated, like by him not being upfront with her right away about it. I mean, because I felt like her frustration when he pulled back after the wedding, because it was almost like he was so charming and so sweet in that meet cute. It was like almost like he was tricking her into marrying him, and then like, okay, bye. Gotta go to my like Q house or wherever he was going to like look at the stars or whatever. And I mean, I don't know. It was just like it just like kind of frustrated me. And I mean, I kind of figured at that point I had something to like he was holding a secret. I'm assuming it was his illness. I didn't really understand what it was at that time, but like I don't know. I just think that in terms of that setup, I just don't know. I have like real issues with like them waiting until episode 4 to like do that whole like switch to George perspective and then like repeat everything that happened in the first 3 episodes. I think they could have like done that a little bit more smoothly and without repeating so much, or maybe just have it introduced it a little bit earlier, because I feel like it's only a 6 episode show. I felt like I don't know. It was just like too long for me to be like annoyed with with this romance. That it kind of like dragged a bit there in the middle for me, and that's like probably like my real like only issue with the show.
I understand that because it goes back to the whole miscommunication / no communication trope. Because like the moment that he brings her to his observatory, like when he's trying to make amends and sort of apologize, but not fucking explain himself, I was like, girl, stand your ground. Ask him, why were you ignoring me for a whole week? Like, why are you just accepting this non-answer? I was like, what is going on? And I hate it when characters don't demand answers, and I hate it when people like are like omitting information, because I feel like it just feels a little bit lazy in the writing. It's just one of my annoyances in shows or books too. So I agree. I agree with that. So many things happened. What else happened? Okay, so of course this is Bridgerton. So that means we are also here for the sexy times. What did you guys think of the hate sex montage? We got back into the sex montages. There was an epic one in the first season of Bridgerton. There was not enough spice in season 2. So they brought it back for this spin-off series. What are your thoughts on the hate sex? Even days.
I mean, I feel like it wasn't like I didn't love it as much as I did in the first season. But I thought it was well done. I thought it was definitely like kind of picked up the tempo of the show. But like, yeah, I mean, it was fine. I don't know, like blown away by it or felt like it was doing anything like crazily new. I guess I don't know. It was nice. I enjoyed them, but like they were fine.
What did you think of their chemistry? India and Corey, the actors.
I think they had a nice chemistry. I mean, it wasn't super magnetic, I don't think. It wasn't quite like, Phoebe and Reggie John's, like sort of like, I don't know, the heat between them. I felt like, I don't know, I didn't quite feel like necessarily the hate from George, like, because remember they were like so frustrated with each other and kind of annoyed with each other. And I didn't really like 100% believe it, if that makes sense. So maybe that's why, like,
I think it made no sense.
Yeah, it was just yeah, they were just annoyed with each other, like, because she was being pushy about it, and he was like reacting to her pushiness, I guess. I don't know. Like, I think it didn't really quite like hit the mark for what it was going for, I guess.
Yeah. Because like I remember that she overhears him talking to his mom, and he's talking about how like, I did what you asked me to do. I'm not gonna tell her. And like obviously she knows that he's keeping stuff from her. She's annoyed, and I think her feelings are hurt. So I get why she's annoyed. But then like it begins to be like a hate sex. Like, I hate you. But it's like I never really know like why is he so angry, and he's reacting to her being angry. But again, they're not talking, so it becomes just like a frustrating cycle. So while I appreciate the sex scenes, I too did not feel the steam and the heat chemistry wise. I just feel like because it's all in the same Bridgerverse, it's hard to not think about like how other people's chemistry was, and I'm not getting that from this coupling in this show as well.
I feel like Brimsley and Reynolds had a lot more heat. Like when they hooked up that first time, and they were just like talking, and like it was good. Like that definitely had like the moment, or even like Lady Danbury's like fleeing with Violet's father, like that was hot. So yeah, I think like those were a lot more memorable for me.
I agree for the most part. I feel like I liked King George and Queen Charlotte's chemistry. I don't think it was like a passionate, like crazy connection, but I also think that's okay. We've gotten the passionate love and all of that, and that was great to watch. Love that. But I actually kind of liked that it was not that I like that it wasn't passionate, but like I don't know. I was okay with it. I think the hate sex, I feel like at first I was like, well, what's his problem? But I think his frustration was just with the whole situation in general. He's literally going mad. And so I feel like his frustration is just like with that. And I'm sure he obviously cares about her and he wants to tell her, but he can't. And so I feel like it's maybe not directed towards her, but he's obviously lashing out at her. Um, the most sexually with this show, my favorite was these women talking about their garden getting
Yes,
gardens.
I wanted to talk about that
That
too.
was fantastic. I loved that we see like in these times. Obviously, I know it's not depicted completely real, but I love that they still like these women were talking about literally getting plowed, and they did it so delicately. And I was like, man, I wish I could be like, I think my garden needs tending, and you're like, yeah, girl, yes. It was the best. That was my favorite.
Yeah, yes. Thank you for bringing that up because I did want to talk about that because there's like other types of themes that the show I think is trying to explore, and it's like it's love, but also like loss of love and like opening yourself up again, and also it's a whole journey because there's some like grief, but then there's also guilt because like Violet Bridgerton, who at this point has lived without her husband for many years. And now she is starting to think, but wait, I'm a flesh blooded, alive woman, and I am getting horny. And I love that the show explored that because she opens up and she is like, for a woman who has 8 children, she couldn't tell her daughter about the birds and bees, and she can't tell this woman she's on her life, like, I need to get plowed by a man. But like, she she opened up to Danbury, and I love how Danbury is there, and like it's like she's like, it's okay, I understand exactly what you're going through. So I love that we got to because I can't really think of another show where that's really like discussed. Like where there's like these pairs of like widows who are going through this period where like they are like, I am now husbandless, but I also want to experience desire and passion again in my life. It's like, how do I do that and how do I reconcile? So I thought that was a cool thing that they gone and explored, and also kind of tragic for Danbury. Do we want to get into Lady Danbury's story in this show? She was great.
I need more. Hold on.
Yeah, I already said I love that character. I mean, obviously, it felt like super bad for her with like her relationship with her husband, which was like, just. I mean, I sort of like low key am upset that they had to show all those like I don't even want to call them sex scenes, but like moments with her husband where it was like I was
I
just
have a
like,
question
oh, I
about
don't
that.
need to see this again.
Okay, exactly. So obviously, like it's part of the story. You show it to us. Did we have to see 10 of those scenes?
I think they did it on purpose so that we really feel bad and know where she's coming from so that we can forgive her for doing what she did.
Fair. Oh, you mean having sex with Violet's dad?
Yeah. Yeah.
But they made Violet's mom like so horrible that I felt like you weren't gonna feel bad anyway that he cheated. You know?
I don't know. I think it was important to see how bad Danbury had it so that we can understand.
But even then,
From.
we understand Danbury, but not him.
But I don't care about him. I want Danbury's happiness.
But I think you only needed to see like that scene once to get the point and feel bad enough for her. Like, you know what I mean?
I don't know. I don't have a problem with the amount of times because I don't know. I feel like it was part of it's kind of like that sort of development that I'm talking about that I feel like I'm missing from other characters, and I feel like you really got to see more of her journey with Danbury.
Mm-hmm.
So I
guess.
But how did you guys how that whole like I feel like I knew it was going to happen the moment he made eye contact with her at the funeral. That was going to be the man that she finally enjoyed sex with.
I mean, I don't know if I thought they were gonna have enjoyable sex. I know, like when he like made eye contact with her and stuff, I thought it was gonna be like a will they, won't they. I did not think they were gonna actually have sex. I want Lady Danbury to be happy, and I want her garden to be tended to. I absolutely do. But you know what? I think it more so threw me off, and maybe this is just very naive of me. I guess I just, not that Lady Danbury and Violet look the same age. I knew they weren't the same age, but I guess I didn't realize that there was like that much of an age gap.
Yeah.
It just didn't hit me, I guess, until I saw that, like, I mean, not that Lady Danbury was old. I mean, they married them off at like 17. But I guess like I didn't realize that there was a bit of an age gap. It just never really clicked. I guess I never thought of it too much. So it threw me off at first, and I was like, her dad? And then I was like, oh, she's a little bit older. Still not okay, but that threw me off. When Lady Danbury walked into Violet's house and Violet had the crowns everywhere.
Yes.
I was like, oh God. I just kept saying, oh God, over and over. I was like, are we going to see like this
drama?
like very, classy ladies? I'm like, they're going to brawl. We're going to see it. They are going to get into it. But they didn't.
How did you feel about that? Were you happy that they didn't have a fight about it? Or were you like glad that?
I mean, I'm happy that they didn't like lose their friendship, because I was nervous. I was like, shit, like, because I think Violet had every right to be upset. Like, if she wanted to say something to Lady Danbury and be like, I don't want to talk to you anymore, I feel like I'd understand that. And not that I necessarily blame Lady Danbury for having her garden tended to. I love saying that. I'm going to say that forever.
You sound like a grandma. I love it.
I'm gonna knit a sweater and ask everybody, has your garden been tended to? But I wouldn't blame Violet if she like lost her shit, and I thought she would, and I think she has every right to. But I'm glad that they didn't go at it, because I do love their friendship, and I feel like they truly need each other. I love Lady Danbury. Love her. But I wish it wasn't Violet's dad, but I get that there has to be some type of drama. I wish it was like somebody else's dad.
I'm very happy that it didn't blow up. I am actually really thankful that, like, I think at first Violet is shook, and you could see that on the expression on her face. But because she is now an older woman who's also a widow, and she knows exactly what it feels like when you have like lost love and then wanting to experience passion and desire again. I think like because she went through all of that, she understood, like she chose to rise above. She chose to understand. And it also happened 100 years ago. Like that moment where like they have that, like both actresses are just like have this expression on their face, like there are no words, and it's just like eye contact and like understanding. And I was like, oh, this is one of the best scenes of this show right here. It's like we're not gonna fight about this. Yeah.
I think it was like Violet realizing that like her dad wouldn't have given anyone a crown, and I think she understood what that meant, and that there was something real there. And it wasn't like a hurtful thing. I mean, even though like unintentionally it kind of is, it's like I think she understood it was a real thing, and that like Danbury had real feelings about it. And yeah, I don't know, I loved it. I love that like emotional punch. Like I think it's just like it. Yeah, I think it was like incredibly well done, and I was like, yeah, again, one of my favorite moments.
I love that moment because I just really feel for her, because even in that moment when they're in the church and like I think it was either their anniversary or Edmund's birthday, I forget, but like Violet
his birthday.
Yeah, I think Violet is getting so emotional because like she misses her husband, and then like Danbury is like, you're lucky to feel this way, and like Violet's like, bitch, what? Where's the compassion? But then like later she understands, like, no, you were lucky to feel so sad because you had a great love. That's something that I didn't get to have. I just had Herman, the fucking like husband who, we're not gonna call it sex, did to me every night. Like I didn't get to have that. Like, you are lucky to feel this like depth of sorrow because like you had a great love in your life. Oh man, that was emotional. She got emotional, so it's making me emotional right now. That was like top notch acting. Loved it.
Yeah.
One day I hope they make How to Marry a Marcus, which is a book that features Danbury. It's another spinoff that Julia Quinn has written because I just want to see more Lady Danbury. She's great. What else? Who else? I was thinking of something I forgot my thought because I was getting lost in my emotions.
You were saying that you didn't want to buy it like spinoff.
Oh yeah, because I don't want to see another tragic love story.
You want to what?
I don't want to see another
what?
Can you hear me?
Oh, I thought you meant like you didn't want to see. I thought by spinoff, I thought you were talking about like her falling in love with someone else, not like her and Edmund's story.
No. Oh well, I didn't actually see the Shonda interview, but I saw the headline saying like she wants to do a Violet show, and I thought she meant like young Violet, like meeting Edmund and then creating the 8 children that they have.
But wait, why don't you want to see it?
Well, because Edmund dies, it'll be another tragic love story, and I don't want to be sad.
Oh,
there's like
okay.
There's like a little novella like about them, or maybe not even like a short story. More like it is so beautiful, but it is so sad.
Nope.
Like,
nope.
It's I don't know. Like it's definitely it would be a really sad watch because he was just so wonderful. Like I don't know, like that.
Sure
I definitely recommend reading it if you haven't.
Wait, but what is it?
It's like a short story of like how they met and like how he wooed her. It's just really sweet. And then it's like kind of like these little like vignettes of like moments in their relationship, like their first meeting, like I guess their wedding day, or like their proposal, their wedding day, like their wedding night, which is also very sweet and clumsy and cute. And then just like them having their first children, and just like then his death, which is like
so we can read it, just not the last chapter. We already know he dies, so we don't have to read that part.
I read romance to be happy. This wasn't a romance. It was sad.
It is a romance.
It is a romance. It's just tragic. It's like
parts.
I'm gonna look up the definition of romance. You're wrong, Melissa.
You need to have an HEA at the end. This was not an HEA. It was not.
I mean,
but that's not realistic.
Exactly. These books aren't realistic.
They're all fact. What are you talking about?
I think I didn't know. I don't think I knew about the short novella about Violet and Edmund, but I think fans have asked Julia to like write a full-fledged novel, and she was like, no, because it's a sad story. She doesn't want like a new reader to pick up that book randomly and like think of her as like an author who writes like sad endings to her books.
Well, this is sad. Queen Charlotte and the King. This is sad as fuck.
Yeah, but that was a Shonda thing. Like if Shonda asked you to write a book with her, are you saying no? No.
Right, but I'm saying is that we don't like, you don't want the sadness of Violet and the husband, but Charlotte and George, this is sad as fuck. This is even sadder because she's literally watching her husband deteriorate.
That's what I'm saying. I didn't like about it, Sam. I didn't know it would be that sad. I said it like, I don't know, like 10 minutes ago. I was so thrown off. I didn't know we'd be seeing the story of him being that sick so young. I didn't know that.
Well, I am curious. As much as I when I was younger, I would love to read all that shit and like just have my heart torn. And I'm like, yeah, now I don't want to. However, I'm going to bring it back to Brimsley and Reynolds. I'm sorry. I just loved them so much.
They're very cute.
I fully believe that like Reynolds tragically died or something, but I need to know. I don't want to read.
We don't know. That's so weird.
I don't want to read that sad story. However, I need it. I want to know. Oh my God. When they were off dancing with just each other, I cried because I thought it was so beautiful. And then when Brimsley is dancing by himself,
like, oh my God, where's Reynolds?
Through the pillow. And I was like, What? So obviously, well, because then I thought at the end when Charlotte ends up going to what was the other? What's his house? George's house?
Q.
Q.
Q
Q.
Q.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which curious. So he's back there. So they moved in together, and then now they live separately towards the end. Interesting. But I was like, oh my god, is Reynolds still alive? Are we gonna see him since Charlotte went to see the king? I was like, oh my god, what if we're gonna see Brimsley see Reynolds? But that didn't happen, and I was very sad.
Yeah, we don't know what happens to Reynolds. What happened to Reynolds? Write your theories in the comments, people of the future. We're watching this. They were very cute. What do you guys think of her children? She had surviving 13 kids who are being very much pressured to have children as well.
Were they ever mentioned in the first or second season? No, right?
If
That's
they
what
were,
I was wondering too. I'm like, I didn't even know she like had. I assumed she had kids, but I didn't know like who they were, what they were doing.
I didn't know she had a whole football team.
Well, it's like based off the real Charlotte, who had 15 kids.
she did have 15 kids.
I mean, but also, I'm not saying that you're meant to get married and have babies. I'm not saying that at all. But damn, out of all 15 of them, not one got married and had a baby. That's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Again, to each their own. You do you. But that is kind of wild.
He kept talking about all the bastards the boys had. And I'm like, is that going to be something like an implication of the future? Like a bastard kid's going to have like their own fucking show? Like, I want a piece of this throne.
I want to see the storyline. And like, how does that work? Like, okay, so they had like bastard children. Like, I don't know. So like, just nothing happens. Like, there's all these illegitimate kids, but like, are they technically, because it was out of wedlock, so like they can't take the throne? But then what happens? Because George didn't have siblings, right?
Right.
So there's, well, so here's the thing, because she has sons, like there was like the baby George and baby Edward. So like that line is fine, but she's already concerned about like what happens after y'all. She wants to keep the line going.
Yeah.
So that's what she's like mainly concerned about, like pressuring her kids about.
Which, oh my God, I felt so bad when one of the daughters came and said that all the girls had been trying, but they had all lost babies. That was really curious too, because it's obviously it's a common thing, unfortunately, and it happens. But that's wild that like, I mean, I know they didn't say like each girl, but the daughter made it seem like multiple of the females had lost babies, and I was like, oh, and like the mom and like Queen Charlotte didn't know. How does she not know?
Because she's all
because she's cold.
Yes! She doesn't care.
I admit it's hard to defend her because you're like, bitch,
it's hard. It's like she's just an unfeeling person. She's just a brick wall.
I don't think that she's unfeeling. I think
we know she loves George, Sam.
I think she loves her kids. Yeah, I don't know. I'm assuming being queen does something to you. I don't know. Who just became queen? Let's ask her.
I think maybe they just didn't tell her because she knew they felt like she would be disappointed or something, or she might have had a reaction that would make it feel worse.
I like that one of her kids was like, "You don't care about us." I forgot which one, and I was like, "Yes, somebody tell her how you feel," because yeah, it's a tough mom to have. Damn, I lost it again. I was gonna bring up something.
Well, speaking of tough moms, how do we feel about King George's mom?
That's what I was gonna bring up. Catelyn Stark was in this. I had no idea. Look, I feel like on one hand, she's like a hard ass, obviously, and like high key racist, but at the same time, I'm also thinking about a woman of her time. She has a lot of pressure, right? Like she has to answer to these men who are like on her back about like, yo, fix your son, yo, he has to marry, yo, we need an airline. It's like all on her shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And
you could say the same for Queen Charlotte.
Does she have? But we don't see enough scenes with her in Parliament. Is she in Parliament at all in the Bridgerton timeline?
We don't. There's a whole gap that
It
we don't
could
see.
be. I mean, the Queen's like, you know, unable to be Queen. I'm assuming she's the one making decisions.
I would be happy to justify if the show had more episodes. Like, there's just not enough there for me to like.
Well, like Bridgerton's about the Bridgertons. It's not about the Queen, so they're not going to give like her that airtime. You know what I mean?
You're not going to give the Queen more time?
Yeah, just because it's really about Bridgertons. It's not about her. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't know what you mean because the show is called Queen Charlotte.
But no, she's talking about like the whole Bridgerton worlds. Like,
oh, well, I meant more episodes like in this limited series because that's one of my complaints.
Right.
Like, I don't fully understand like why she is the way she is, that she's older.
Right. Well, we don't fully understand really the king's mom. We see her as often as we see the queen. So I feel like I agree because like at first I was like, for the king's mom, I was like, this bitch. And then it's like you go through it and you're like, okay, not to condone what you're doing because you're still being a bitch. And especially, oh my God, when she had told the artist to make her skin lighter in the painting, I was beside myself.
I know.
So she's obviously a terrible person. But then like when she finally bowed down when she curtsied to Charlotte in the end and she was like, you make my son happy. And she even said it like, all I've ever wanted is for him to be happy. So you're like, you don't condone what she said and done. But like you said, she's getting so much pressure because she doesn't want the world thinking her son's a madman. She doesn't want to lose what they've worked for. And so you're kind of like, you're a bitch, but like you're doing something for a reason. So I feel like I take that thought with Queen Charlotte, where we're getting to know her a bit better. So I feel like there is part of me, like with the whole, like, kick it over her not knowing anything about Brimsley. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't. Do not condone that. No. But there was a reason.
I feel like Charlotte also, I mean, you can kind of make comparisons to like Charlotte and the King's mom. Like they are a little bit, like especially like the King's mom's like what was her name? I forgot, but her last scene with Lady Danbury where she's just like, you're my adversary, like, you know, stop crying, like get over yourself, like
yes.
You know, I love that. And that reminded me a lot of like the future Charlotte. Because she's kind of like that too. She's kind of like, I don't want to deal with your tears. Like, I like you being, you know, challenging me. And I think that's like so I think there was like a bit of a parallel there, at least for me. That's what I noticed. So maybe it's just like years of being in the monarchy and like dealing with all the BS that kind of hardens you and makes you a little bit like selfish and diva-like, honestly. And yeah,
for sure. I wish they just had like shown a little bit more of that. I guess like in the current Bridgerton timeline, where like more scenes of her dealing with the pressure. But yeah. So I did want to say I did like that last scene with the Queen Mother of George's mother and Danbury, when Danbury's like feeling the pressure and is crying, and she's like, I don't like you, but you're a worthy adversary. Fine. I like that because I like that she was finally kind of showing, like, she was kind of like real recognized as real, that she was showing respect in that way. Like knowing, like it's kind of like she already saw the Danbury that we know now of the current timeline, where like we know she's like this hard ass, fierce lady, and then it's kind of like the mom had already seen that in her. Like she knew, like, you're gonna be this thing. Like I already see it for you. But yeah, I did like that scene. So every time they said, what was it, like the great experiment, I wanted to, like, I just hated that term so much because it made it feel like they were like little rabbits in a fucking science lab. But understanding, of course, that's what it is because they're not used to like black people in the aristocracy. And but like every time they said that term, it made my stomach turn. I hated that term so badly. So it's interesting to me because I know I'm not in the discourse at all when it comes to race on the show. I'm not on the Reddits or the Twitters. And I know historians and people who are historic buffs complain about the inaccuracy of this and stuff. But I know that the show itself in season 1 did make that comment about how the only reason why black people have risen above and have like the estates and the titles is because of the union of George and Queen Charlotte. And then what Shonda does, she decides to make this a larger storyline in the show that she's writing. And she kind of makes it, I think, more so a crusade for Lady Danbury to tackle, which I thought was really interesting. And it kind of makes sense how like the older people are the ones who have to deal with that back in the day, and then slowly but surely it became more and more normal. So I thought it was an interesting take. I don't think I fully buy or love how it was kind of like wrapped up in a bow in the last episode, because I think at this point the queen finds out about this issue and then she kind of tells Danbury that she's taking care of it. Help me with the details because it's losing me again. But it was kind of wrapped up pretty like neatly and quickly for my taste.
What do you mean?
I can't remember.
Like
Queen Charlotte,
like we're gonna take care of this now, and society's gonna be integrated, and you know they're gonna like make like basically her. She's making a promise to Lady Danbury, like this is gonna be important to the king and I, and we're gonna make sure that you feel.
At the end of the night, like when she confronts her for saying no to the brother
at the party, I think.
And then and for her not being like honest about like what she was going through,
right?
About like her son, like son's title and everything,
right? Which was a whole other like. I think it was really interesting how there was so many different storylines to really know about, and like never did I think like there's too much going on, because I feel like a lot of the times like there's so many storylines and you're like, but wait, who is this again? Like maybe it helps because we have seen Bridgerton first season and second season, so like we're familiar with a lot of these characters, so that might have helped. But like I feel like I always get confused like when there's all these storylines and everybody intertwines. I'm like, who's related to who? But for this, I'm like Lady Danbury had multiple storylines technically, because you had when as she's older with Violet, she had the storyline with her husband and the husband died. And then the storyline between her and Violet's dad. Then the storyline just with her and the friendship with Queen Charlotte. Then her and her relationship with the queen, with the king's mother. Then her, like I was like, like there were so many things happening. And I just thought it was really well written overall. Like I think for the most part, it made sense. There was certain things where I was like, what's happening? But it never like took me out of the story, like where I wasn't interested in it anymore.
Yeah. And like I said, I am no history buff, but I had especially liked the bit of history where Danbury's telling the mom that like, you know, like her family comes from Africa and they are richer and royal there as well, but what they're lacking is stuff like titles and estates and respect, which on the one hand it was confusing a little bit, because I was like, if you guys are so rich, why can't you buy an estate? But I guess they wouldn't have been allowed because like the crown probably wouldn't have allowed them to have an estate under that title and their name and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, definitely don't tune into this if you're looking for a documentary. You're not gonna find it. This is a big story. Go look up a documentary about that. That's a lot more.
Actually, I have a possible stupid question.
Huh?
Yes. Gabby said it was fiction inspired
Oh
by
yeah,
fact.
Oh yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Um, I don't know if this is a dumb question, but so like, and I think Gabby, I don't know if it was you or you, Mel, that had said, I think it's in the first season of Bridgerton that they make the comment that like they're in society because the king fell in love with one of them.
Hmm.
Okay, is that true? Because yes, obviously, I know the king fell in love with Charlotte. They fell in love, but that's not why they got married. He didn't even choose her. So I don't, I think it's a little, and maybe I'm being just too picky, which probably, but like saying that they have, they're in the town, they have these titles and these estates because a king fell in love with one of them. Like, technically that's not why he met her while she was about to go over the wall. So I don't know, I feel like it wasn't really, I mean, I don't know, because it's not like, oh well, they chose to stay together. Like, yes, but also you didn't really get divorced at that time. So I don't
And
know.
the mom fought hard to make this seem like nothing's amiss here. This is totally normal. Okay, we're gonna get control of this. We're gonna act like this is fine because
Right,
it is.
right. Which
Yeah.
I know they explained, and maybe I just need to rewatch it. They kind of explained, like, that they chose her because of the land, but like, why ultimately was she chosen? Was it because of like the land agreement or something that they mentioned?
I have a question about that too, because I remember they keep alluding like you were chosen for a reason, because like there were other prospects that they could have chosen from their own kingdom, but they chose a girl all the way from Germany. Which, is it because like you want to get a foreigner because of his mental illness, that like she's coming in completely blind? Was that the reason? Because I'm guessing they were keeping his illness a secret and like nobody knew.
Right. Which, and I know that she made a comment too that like she wanted someone that was just going to be grateful to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the person wouldn't ask a lot of questions.
I don't know. See, plot
And
hole.
and
I
I
think like
know,
if you think back to like what the brother was saying about how like he basically like when they were on their way there, he was like telling her like, "There's no way I can refuse like England like this
right.
request." Like, so I think it was just like a strategic decision on their part to pick like a sovereign that they could one know that like they couldn't say no to you. They had a young daughter, she was of royal blood, and they figured that if anything they could probably have enough power over her and her family to not say anything about George. That
True.
was like
Yeah.
my interpretation of it.
Yeah. Because I know that they didn't realize that she was as dark as she was because the
Yeah.
mom made a comment about that.
Yeah. She was like,
Yeah.
she's mole. She's mole. She like they didn't know that. Kind of seemed like they didn't know that she was black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that threw me off a little bit.
Yeah.
And like obviously it did open doors, and obviously because it is obvious that George and Charlotte do love each other, like I'm sure that helped too, but like really he didn't choose his bride. So I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was also something that like I was thinking about too, because like for me it was just like because I was thinking of that first season and how like, oh, like they made this big change together and integrated society, but like when you watch this you realize like, oh, they're just trying to like pretend they were intentional about this and that this is what they wanted to do all along, when really they were just trying to save face.
Yeah. Which is kind of
So like,
like in true politics. Like,
yeah.
I kind of see it that way. Like, this is how we're gonna say it went down, even though it went down a different way.
Yes.
That's how I see it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it was like kind of like an interesting twist. I mean, kind of like sad, but like I guess like the nature of the world or the way things work, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one thing that Shonda will do. She will write complex characters, and that's kind of how like Catelyn Stark's, how I'm going to call her Catelyn Stark, is like it's not a character that you love. You don't even necessarily like her, right? But there's like those inklings where like even she recognizes the good in certain people and like what people are capable of.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Cool. Anybody else?
Terrific. He was very attractive. Where they find these men, I don't know. But he's so cute. And I think he did really well. I feel like I liked him where I mean, obviously I know that we know like how it ends. So you know that like he's not a complete monster, but like even when he was being a dick, I feel like, in my opinion, he still portrayed like the kind of push and pull. Like on like night one, when like he lashed out and like he told her, like, oh, you stay here, I stay there. Like I was confused and I was like, this is stupid. But then like when she was like, oh, my mistake, I thought you were just George. Like I thought he was really good about like kind of changing his expression, even just a little bit when he was like, Charlotte, like he had like a moment of like shit. And then he went back to like, okay, he's gonna go. Um, and so I feel like throughout, I don't know, I think he did a good job of kind of the showing the internal struggle, just like in his facial expressions, and I don't know. I really liked it. And when I thought they did a really good job in the scene where she goes to where he has like the telescope and he was like, oh, you need to leave. And she was like, I thought about it. And I realized that maybe you're like ignoring me because you actually love me and you care about me and you're just trying to do what you think is right, which I think helps explain like because they do like the whole like the hate sex and like they go back and forth, they like each other, then they don't. And I was a little frustrated with that, but then I actually felt good about it once she had said like I was thinking about it and I think that you're doing all of this because you're trying to protect me. So it's not condoning him being a jerk, but like there's a reason people are the way they are. And so I really, really like that scene where she's like, tell me you don't love me and I'll go. We can do the whole separate marriage. I will be there with the kids. You'll be here. But like, you need to tell me you don't love me. And then like his struggle. And then finally when he said it and he said that I love you since I saw you trying to climb the wall, I was like, romance, people. That's what it's all about.
I like that scene too, because especially he's struggling when he's like, he's like stuttering it out.
Oh God.
I desperately love you. God. My romance novel loving heart died. Catnip. It's my catnip. I do love that. He is a very good looking guy. Yes. Keep casting these cute boys. I enjoyed that. And Gabby, do you have a standout moment, a George moment for you?
Okay, so like to be honest, I wasn't as enamored with him as you two. Like I think he's like very good looking, don't get me wrong. But like I think like just honestly my favorite moment with him was like the beginning is meet cute. I just thought he was so charming and I kind of like for me that was like a moment where I like did fall in love with him a tiny bit. Yeah, before everything else went down. But like I mean, I think otherwise, so I think he's like a really good actor. I think he played like that, like George and like his struggles and his illness very, very well. But yeah, I think as far as like the romance thing or standout, I do love the meet cute in the beginning.
Well, that is completely fair. He's not the top performer or character arc for me in the show per se, but the moments where we get like we talked about, like the meet cute and like when he's confessing that he does love her are some good moments that I think he did have. Yeah. Is there anybody else left that we haven't talked about before we wrap up? What is that sound? Oh, you guys didn't tell me that there was like sound behind me.
There is?
I just heard like my like rainfall from the YouTube that I had open.
I just heard it now that you said it.
Oh, I hope that just started because I did not realize if that happened during the whole show. Jesus.
You were just making it a very calming experience.
Oh my God. I apologize. I have no idea how long that lasted.
I'm trying to think of who else. Oh, what's her name? Carol, Lady Danbury's person when she was younger? The
Maid?
Her like maid.
maid?
yeah, I guess that's her maid.
Yeah.
The one that
Clara,
would like
was it?
the one that would bathe her and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay. I very much liked that she was a little sassy and like she was like they would give each other looks like when Lord Danbury wanted to have sex and she'd be like, I'll run your bath. I loved that.
I love when the staff are like the people's best friends.
Yes.
I love that.
When they get a little like, when they just like they can't help it, they need to say something. And like when she was like, you're gonna say yes to the proposal, right? And it was so good. And then
and she knew about Mr. Bridgerton. She was like, you finding joy today?
Scandal.
You're gonna go on your walk? Are you gonna go on your walk?
Solitude with your garden.
I love what she was there for. She was like, girl, get your happiness.
Yes. She was good times.
I love it. Okay, let's wrap up the show. Okay, so this was fun. To wrap up, does anybody have like an MVP of the show? Like who was like your like most memorable character?
Brimsley.
Really? The best like storyline and everything?
I think I don't know if like overall it hit me so hard in the finale that I will be thinking of Brimsley and Reynolds for a very long time. I don't know. Like you said, I like where it's like the royalty has like their person and their person like it's kind of friendly and I don't know. The scene, them dancing and then him dancing by myself just broke me. And because of that, I don't know. I'm going to say Brimsley because he is on my mind. I just can't get him out of my mind. I just want him to be happy.
I want him to be happy too. He was a really great friend. So that's a fair choice. And Gabby?
Yeah, Lady Danbury for me all the way. I think she just had like an incredible arc. I think she like really was like I don't know, just like super empowering and just like I just loved her story. I loved everything she went through and like overcome and I mean I always liked her in the regular Bridgerton series. So it was really nice to see like her backstory and I also love her in the books too. So like it was just like a good moment and I have to say just like definitely my MVP.
That is mine too, Gabby. She was like even like during my vlog, you could see me just like praising Danbury. She's like and I think that younger actress, she's pretty new. Like she started acting like in 2020.
Nice.
Right? And she was so good. She had a lot of different storylines to handle as a young new actor, and I think she did a phenomenal job. I'm hoping, I mean, I know it's a limited series and we probably won't get any more from her, but who knows what Shondaland will create again if this ends up doing the numbers that it does for Netflix. But I really loved her story. Her and of course older Danbury that we already know, they made me feel a lot of things as I like felt for her. Even when she was quite scandalous, I was like, I understand. I feel like if you can get me behind your actions, like not condoning, but like I can like understand, then you're doing a good job. You're doing
yeah.
Yeah.
I will say really quick,
Yeah.
I think that like you said, it's a limited series. We probably won't get any more. But I could see if this show does very well, I could see them giving us maybe some flashback scenes in the Bridgerton series. Maybe we'll get that. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I would love to see more of young Danbury and young Violet.
Brimsley.
And yes. Brimsley. And maybe we'll find out what happened to Reynolds.
I'm going to have my heart broken. I already know it.
I want to know the fan theories, man. That was another love story on the show. But cool. Yay, this was fun. Thank you guys so much for joining. If you're watching the replay, hit that like button, subscribe. I will be having more Bridgerton content coming in your way. If you watch the end of this, in the comments below, you should post your most used emoji. Let me know your most used emoji. Okay, I'm going to hang backstage to say bye to Sam and Gabby, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye.